Welcome to another Camping with Liam. I'm out here in the Great Smoky Mountains. Well, sort of close to the Smoky Mountains. And if you notice here, you'll see all this brush, right? See all this brush and these trees are up in here, right? Well, if you know anything about brush and trees, and up there in them there trees are snakes and poisonous spiders and all kinds of bugs that bite and leave red marks on that fair pale pink skin of yours, or whatever color skin it is, right? They leave all kinds of nastiness for you to deal with, to itch all night. There's even poison ivy up in here. So this is something that I think a lot of bushcrafters don't really show you guys when you're out in the woods, right? You're all excited about going bushcrafting and building yourself a shelter tent out there in the middle of the sticks, in the middle of nowhere. Of course, I'm not necessarily in the middle of nowhere because there's a Ramada over here, but this is the closest we get to nowhere here in the city. But the mountains out here are very much like this all throughout here. Very, very thick woods, very, very thick areas, and there's all kinds of critters and gitters out here. But the thing I'm going to be talking about today and kind of showing you today is how to make a staff for bushcrafting or even for survival. Hopefully you brought a pocket knife with you if you're lost out in the woods, because none of this will be practical or purposeful for you if you don't have some sort of cutting tool like a pocket knife. Most guys usually carry a decent pocket knife in their pocket, but anyone I suggest wanting to go out into the woods or just exploring, you run the chance of getting lost, and you are up Lost Creek if you forget to have a pocket knife with you, at least the bare minimum. So I would suggest that getting a good pocket knife would be to your benefit if you ever were to do any hiking or camping. Even just a pocket knife, right? Now they sell survival knives and you know, large blade knives, whatever, but you never know when you might be running into a situation where you're stranded out in the woods if you like to go hiking. So anyhow, see how dense these woods are? And the main thing you would want to be looking for if you're looking for a staff, right? I think this would be the first thing that myself would be looking for if I was stranded out in the woods without any gear, maybe just a pocket knife and just really small stuff. I would be looking for some kind of wood to make a staff with. And the reason why I would want to have a staff as my very first tool that I make is basically, if you have to go through this brush right here for some reason, or to go back into the brush, it's a good call to have a staff for you to knock spider webs down, to knock brush out of the way, to just in case you run up across a snake. Now some people's countries, they don't have snakes, but we do have snakes here. We have copperhead snakes out here, and we have water moccasin, and it's kind of interesting to keep you know, if you learn about these things, right, they are very poisonous, venomous, and if you're kind of weaker or older, you could actually die from a poisonous snake bite. And even young people have been known to have perished with a snake bite. So it's something to keep in mind. Also, even though it could be a black snake or a corn snake or a garter snake, right, they still bite if they're endangered, right? And I've never seen that much about, like, maybe a non-venomous snake that would bite you, right? They don't put this kind of information out. However, there's other creatures out here that these snakes will eat, like mice or rats or squirrels. And any one of those could be infected with things like rabies or any other kind of diseases that they would have out here with these kind of small rodents or small critters. And a garter snake or a corn snake or a black snake could potentially eat one of these, and then it becomes infected in a sense. It might not get sick because there's different chemistry, but it still has a remnants on it. If it bites you, you can get sick, very, very sick from some of these rodents that a snake might consume. So whether it's a poisonous snake or non-poisonous, it's still something you need to look out for. So my video is going to be about making a staff, just a simple staff, in order to, when you had to be out there in bushcrafting or any kind of nature hikes or whatever, you know, just for you guys that never made one before, this is kind of just a rundown on how you do it. Okay, what I am looking for out here is I am looking for some wood, some branches that is of reasonable height, anywhere from 6 foot to about 5 foot, maybe even 4 foot. I'm relatively tall. I'm 5'11", and it just serves me to have a higher staff. But basically, I want to keep it around 5 foot, maybe 4 foot, just to get a reach out of it if I just so happen to run into a snake out here. So I'm looking at this wood here, right? And in this area, there's a lot of rotted wood. It's very, very wet here. It's just like a natural rainforest is what it's basically preferred as to be called. Rainforest. It rains considerably here. And you see there's a lot of growth up in here. And a lot of this on the ground here that I find is basically falling down from these trees up here. And the reason why it falls is because of the fact that it becomes fragile. So wind, and you see this stick here, most people couldn't break this, but watch. See how I broke it, snapped it? So that's what you're doing, testing for wood that would be serviceable for a staff. This right here, see this stick right here, it was pretty big. See how I just snapped it? See that? See that? You cannot use that for making a staff because it's just not going to be able to even support your weight in case you had to go up the side of a mountain or something, or do leaves up a hill or something, or even downhill to use for stability. That just wouldn't work. So you're looking for woods out here that is going to be hardwood and solid and stable to make an actual staff. Well, I am no tree master. I don't know hardly any of these trees out here. I know that that's an amber or arch. I mean, there's a few I know here, elms and stuff like this, walnut, but I'm not too familiar with what the trees are in this area here. I'm kind of new in this part of the country, but so I don't know what these woods are. But I have actually found a piece of I'm wanting to say it's kind of like a walnut. It's very durable. So I have that over there in Ramada where I'm just kind of camping out. So I will go to show you guys how to whittle the bark off. All right, a little about myself. I might seem like a city slicker. I don't dress like a country boy. I don't necessarily look like a bushcrafter. I don't go into those kind of trends. However, I have vast amount of experience of camping at many different kinds of elevations in mountain country. And I've camped out in the middle of hot Sonoran desert by the cactuses. I've pretty much camped all over different kinds of terrain in this beautiful country, United States. I would love to get out and go camping in other countries, such as like in England and UK and in Germany and Norway and Scandinavia and these kinds of places. Maybe someday I will. But here in the United States, I do have a considerable amount of camping experience. I've been out in all kinds of weather conditions. I've been out in the actual freezing snow. I've been in torrential rain. I've been in extremely hot, arid areas. So, I mean, I've kind of, through my experiences, I kind of learned these things, what to do. And again, I think for every one of these particular areas that I've gone camping, a staff is probably one of the most important things that you would need if you're out there bushcrafting, camping, hiking, or in a survival situation. Okay, another good use for a staff is the potential for you having sprains, major cuts, even possibly, and I hope this never happens to anybody, but broken legs, broken bones, a staff is very good to at least get you to someplace safety, or at least under cover for any potential like sun or for rain or any number of the environment problems out there. So it would be very important to have a staff, even for a medical situation, or even if you had to use the staff to brace your leg. Say, for instance, you fall and you break your leg somehow. Hopefully this doesn't happen. But you could take your shirt or cloth and you can tear into rags to at least stabilize your leg until you can get to, you know, more appropriate medical assistance. So there's a large number of benefits of using a staff. And once again, for self-protection, like for instance, I've even been in a situation where I ran into some ornery raccoons and I had to use the staff to shoo them away. I've actually encountered snakes several times. And once again, the staff is good. It keeps you at a distance. You basically hold your staff and you see a snake. There's no snakes out here. In this area, I've been here a number of times. I have never seen a snake, but I'm pretty sure that they would exist, but I've never seen them. But, you know, this distance of the stick, right, of this staff, it's long enough that if I ever encounter a snake, I could shoo it away, right? I could take my end of my stick and I could push it out of its way. And usually, if you do come in the proximity of a snake, you will know it. You can literally see it moving or crawling around. So it's just a good rule of thumb just to keep your eyes open to where you are walking or hiking or going. And before you go into any open area or a secluded area, I'm going to walk over here and show you the best things you would want to do, right, is you want to examine everywhere you're going to walk your path. You need to look for your path. You need to look for obstructions. You need to look for potential dangers, hazards. You even need to look for the potential of a widowmaker, which will be a tree that actually comes down on you if the wind picks up. You got to keep in mind all these different dangers out here. So you got to kind of scan your area of where you're going to walk. I would suggest also bringing a machete with you, a good sharp, good quality machete to cut brush down like here, which I have one out in my car if I need, but I'm not going to go do all that just to make a video about making a walking stick. But these are some things you need to look out for. Here we have these brown recluse spiders and spiders, and the only ones I'm aware of that would bite and cause some serious injury, which could possibly lead to amputations, would be a brown recluse. However, there's these spiders that are all throughout these woods here, and every time I come out here, I always look for them, and I try to take my hat or something to take the spider webs down. Like if I just want to go look at something in the back, like just exploring, right? I try to make sure I get the spider webs out of the way because I don't want those critters biting me. But yeah, but you got to look through all the areas and see the potential hazards. And this is where you would want to use your stick, kind of poke around to see if there's anything underneath this big log that's falling down here, right? So that's just kind of an example of the things you would be needing a walking stick for. Look what I find. It might not work, right? It might not work, but usually this is something I would pick up, because if anything, right, I can get that flint out of it. So if you're out there in a survival situation, you know, and there might have been people out there at some point, I would look for something like this. It might not be operable as far as there might be no gas left in it, but generally there's the flint inside of here, and you can knock this part off, and you can take that little flint. It's in a spring, just be careful, take that little flint, and you can utilize that flint with your knife to actually start a fire if you needed to in a survival situation. In a future video, I'm going to be making I haven't really thought out what I'm going to do. I might just be doing one, which would be how to soak cotton balls in petroleum jelly like Vaseline or petroleum jellies you can get at any drugstore or grocery store, and how to soak cotton balls and leave them in a watertight container, and to store that into your backpack or little bug out bag, or even in the car dashboard or something, right? Because they will hold for a very, very long time if they're soaked in Vaseline. And those are the perfect fire starters. And you can lay one of those cotton balls out, and you can use a ferro rod and just strike a few times the ferro rod, and as soon as the ferro particle hits on that cotton, it will ignite, and you'll have a long burning fire in a cotton ball that can start any fire, even wet. They even work wet, so I will do a demonstration of how to do that in a future video. Okay, this would be an example of a good pocket knife that you would want to carry with you. I know if you're going adventuring for backpacking or camping or hiking or bushcrafting, you would have a larger blade than this. But if you're just going out for a day hike or just adventuring, right, I still suggest that you carry a good quality pocket knife with you. And I have a Kershaw, which is a metal handle blade. It's very, very solid. It's got the holder for your pocket, so you can just slide it in your pocket. I'm sure you guys have probably seen these before, but I prefer an all metal frame, right? And this is a flick blade, which just serves the purpose of being able to open it one-handedly in case you're like having to tie string or I don't know, hold an object and need to pull your knife out, and you can just flick it with one hand as opposed to having to use two hands to open a pocket knife. So this one is very easy, right? You just flick, whip, blap, right? And you have a very good durable blade. This is the Kershaw, and I've had Bucks, I've had Kershaw, I've had a variety of different pocket knives, but I think this is my favorite brand here for the durability and the price wise. As you can see, mine is quite used. I keep the blade in very good condition, like the cutting edge right here. I keep that in very good condition. But it's very, very used. I use this all the time. Not necessarily out in the woods or out in bushwhacking or camping. I use it at home. I use it at work. I use it in the shop. I use it all the time. So it's just a very handy tool. I think that every guy should at least carry a pocket knife with them. And it's like a general tool that you should have at all times with you on your person. That's just my personal feeling with this. But, you know, this is how I think, I suppose. I grew up in a family where I was given a pocket knife when I was young, and I've always had a pocket knife with me ever since I was just very young. So it's just something that I think that most boys have, and it's okay if ladies have one too. I would actually recommend ladies to get themselves a pocket knife, because there's some creeps out there, and we wouldn't want anything to happen to you ladies out there. And so just for self-defense, personal defense, for many different uses, a pocket knife does come in handy for. So I recommend everybody get a pocket knife. Okay, this is the wood that I had found. I scoured the trees. This is like an ash. And now look at it closer, I see what kind of wood it is, like an ash, right? And it's going to have, if you find it out in the forest, right, or out in the woods, right, it's going to have a bark on it. And I mean, you can leave the bark on if you'd like, but just for smoothness in your hand, right, I just take all the bark off of it. So you grab your stick. This is about a maybe a 5 foot stick right here, right? And I get big enough to put your hand around it. It's solid. I tested this one. I stepped on it. It didn't give. I banged it up against the side of a tree. It didn't give. It's very durable. It's a different kind of wood than what I've been finding out here. I do believe that at one time somebody had whacked it off, because there's maintenance out here that kind of takes the trees down some. And like I said, there's all kinds of wood out here, all fallen branches. A lot of this is fallen branches because that tree that's out here is very, very porous, very, very soft wood, and it rots and it falls. So, but this I think was cut down at one time, but it's perfect. And you'll find that out there in the woods too. Like, you can go there's all kinds of different trees out there, and for any kind of reason, branches will fall off. It couldn't necessarily be because of the wood is soft. I mean, you have widowmakers. A tree will fall down in its place or uproot, and it will fall down and knock branches off of other trees, which are harder wood, whatever. So if you just need to look around, and for some areas the wood all is hardwood like this, and it takes time for it to degrade. However, this wood, it doesn't take very long for it to degrade and turn back into mulch. But anyhow, right, basically you're just wanting to take your stick and you want to put it on a flat surface, or at least hold it steady, and you basically going to take and you pull and get up underneath the bark, and you're just kind of whittling that bark off, right? I try not to cut so deep into it that I go into the actual wood, so I'm just trying to skim that bark off. And I've seen guys do this all the time where they've left parts of bark on for the decorative value. And you could do that if you would like, if you want to have it more of a permanent. I've made staffs that I made more permanent where I've whittled them down really, really nice. And then I took and I did some chiseling inside of it, and I add some words or runes or just various things, decorations inside the wood to kind of give it a personality to you. I don't necessarily go with what some believe it's like a magical tool of a staff, or, you know, I don't think it contains any kind of magical powers, but I do think it has a very beneficial power of being a protection device for many kind of different things. Like I said, once snakes, right? For raccoons, for any kind of like coyotes, which usually coyotes won't run up on you, but if you're just so up in the woods, right, by yourself, you don't know what might happen out there. You might be going through some wood passage area, whatever, and you run across a den, right? I don't think you have much chance with a skunk, but at any rate, there's all kinds of critters out there, and it's just good to have a defense tool against the critters. And it's interesting because I've seen a number of videos and how-to guys, the DIY bushcrafters, and they're all into making bushcraft shelters and hasty positions and survival positions, or just going out to the camp sites to go camp for a day or two, and very make like temporary survival shelters out there just to have warm place to keep the rain off of them or whatever. I see them do all kinds of different stuff in their videos, which is really cool, but I don't think I've ever seen one of those guys going out there in the bush with any kind of staff or making any kind of staff out there. And I think it's just a very practical thing to make for yourself when you go out bushcrafting, because it has a variety of uses for you. It's very beneficial to you to be using. I mean, just an example, I could say, like if you're trying to run some sort of cord to hang, I don't know, a tube tent or something, right? You can use the staff to hold it up into the tree until you can get to the point of tying it off, right? I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can use this as a tool for your survival out there. And meaning, I don't have any rope with me, but, you know, I'm going to walk to the tree over here. You can use the staff to measure off the ground to how high up you want for level of your cord. If you need to put up a tube tent between these two trees here, right, these two trees, see these, and you need staff, so you can basically take your string, tie it around here, and hold it here on this one until you adjust, and then you can keep, you know, holding it off here until you finally get it to height, and then you can use, right. There's all kinds of different things you can be using a staff for, just besides protection out here. And also it's good for collecting firewood. Like, you don't know what kind of critters can be under this piece of wood right here. So if you're hunting for firewood, right, you basically want to take and move that out of the way. Try to move these out of here and see if there's anything underneath here, right? Like snakes and stickers, poison ivy, whatever, you can use to pull stuff out Like say for instance, you don't want to go into the tree line, but you see some firewood that you need. With the longer staff, you can reach in and you can pull this out. See how I'm pulling this out here? Reach in. See this? You got your staff, right? And you can reach in here. See, I got it hooked on here, and I'm now pulling this wood out of here. Yeah. See, I'm pulling this branch out, which I could use for firewood. See that? So there's just a couple more ideas that you can use with the staff besides reaching your hand in there. Because again, it's right protecting yourself. Because if you're out there in nowhere and there's no way for you to get medical attention, right? No hospitals, there's no medical van out there or ambulance waiting for you to get hurt so they can have something to do to stitch you back up, right? You have to be really, really protective of yourself and keep yourself as protected and injury free as possible. So hiking around, right, is a good thing to have. Like example, I'm going to go over here just to show you. You'll run across areas where, I don't think there's one over here, but it's kind of be a good enough example, that you'll see brush line and you'll see like an indentation, right? And you don't know if that's a creek, the edge, the grass could be growing up. So it's good to take this to test, right? Or you go into a creek, and if you need to cross the creek for any reason, you're going to take your staff to test the depth of that water. If it's too deep, then you know it's too deep that you can walk through. But if it's okay, you can walk out. Right? You're just kind of testing your pathway so you don't step into any pits or holes. Right? There's so many uses you use staff for safety that I think it should be a very important tool number one when you're out in any kind of bushcraft situation, or hiking or camping. Now, we do have campgrounds which are fully, leveled and tooled off, that most domestic kind of camping, which are paid sites, those are probably pretty safe. But if you're going camping out backpacking, right, and you're going to the backcountry, yeah, this is probably a tool you want to have. Now, they do sell those sticks, those walking sticks, telescoping walking sticks, but I mean, you can get those if you want. However, I think in an emergency situation, this is probably the best tool to get yourself to start with tools for survival. All right, so I guess that's going to conclude this session of tools that you would need for camping with Liam. You guys have a good one, and be safe out there.